My name is Kate Gearheiser, and I have chosen the cerebellum as my favorite part of the brain. So, where is the cerebellum located? It is located in the back of the head where the spinal cord connects to the brain, as you can see in this picture on the right. So, the anatomy of the cerebellum. There are three lobes. You have the anterior lobe, which is yellow, the posterior lobe, which is green, and then the flocculonodubular lobe, which is that small little blue lobe right by the posterior lobe. And then you have two fissures, which is the primary, and then the posterolateral fissure. So, what are the functions of the cerebellum? You have five main functions: balance and posture, muscle coordination of voluntary movements, some types of learning, muscle tone, and then cognitive function. So why is this my favorite part of the brain? It is key for all movement of the body, such as walking, running, and playing our favorite sports. How does the cerebellum process and control movement? It actually does not start the movement. The goal of the cerebellum is to perfect it. So it receives input from the spinal cord and the cerebral cortex about the movement, and then from there, the cerebellum takes the information and processes it to know where and how to make the movement. So how is the cerebellum involved in learning and cognitive functions? So the cerebellum has a trial and error process to help learn a new skill. As we know, most skills you can't just pick up, you have to practice, such as like juggling a soccer ball. When you go to juggle for the first time, you can't just pick up a ball and juggle. You have to have trial and error. You have to learn the skill, develop the skill, and then master the skill. And then the cerebellum also helps us refine our skills to master what we want to do, learn, or teach. And then in terms of cognitive function, there is yet to be a lot of data to back up this function. I know when I was doing research, there was a little bit behind how the cerebellum can do cognitive functions, but there are other parts of the brain that really focus on the cognitive function aspect. So, what is the difference between the cerebellum and the cerebrum? I know when I was learning the difference, sometimes I would get them confused, not only because they both start with a C, but just also the location. The cerebrum is a lot bigger, and it sits above the cerebellum, which is a smaller part that is right below it. And now, just because they both start with a C doesn't mean that they're the same, like I said. And the functions are where they definitely differ. The cerebrum functions as your brain's conscious actions, such as your working memory, movement, senses, and behavior. So really the only overlap here between the cerebrum and the cerebellum would be the movement aspect. So the cerebellum affects on multiple sclerosis. This was the disease that I chose. So multiple sclerosis, or MS, affects your CNS, or central nervous system, and it attacks its own nerve and nerve cells, aka which is your myelin sheath. And MS affects both gray matter and white matter, and your white matter is your myelin, which the cerebellum both contains. So when individuals have MS, they have trouble with balance and walking difficulties, speech impairments, and cognitive loss. And so here, when you have damage to the cerebellum, you have loss of motor movements, coordination, and balance, and as we can see, there's a big overlap. So on this slide, I have two videos that showcase balance and coordination. So in this first video, you can see she's standing on one foot with her eyes open, and then when she closes her eyes, she cannot hold that posture or balance. In the second video, she is hopping with her eyes open in the same spot, and then the minute that she closed her eyes, she was unable to stay in the same location. This concludes my favorite part of the brain, which is the cerebellum.